The Washington Post story is either entirely false and is made up by the president's enemies to feed the narrative and continue the effort to undermine his presidency, or this was a very serious blunder by the President of the United States and potentially damaging to the intelligence community of one of our allies that provided this information to the president, and perhaps, as Catherine pointed out, potentially damaging to the human intelligence on the ground. Because if this information is accurate as it came from the Washington Post, ISIS knows where it came from, and they probably know the source.
Yeah. Chris Stirewalt joining us once again. Chris, this has been a very rough period for this White House. I mean, there's no other way to look at this. Since the firing of Jim Comey, it has been a rather chaotic period. There have been stories about the president wanting to sort of overturn the apple cart with his staff inside the White House, and now you have this leak that happened in a small room of very top officials, and here they are, you know, trying to sort of quick respond once again.
And you have McMaster offering a statement that would not exclude what you and the judge were just talking about. That would still leave that possibility. Because remember, the president can declassify anything he wants to declassify. He is the ultimate authority. So it's not like there's a crime here. It's not like he did something that was illegal. But remember, he did this. Let's think about the context. He did this in a meeting with this was the day after he canned Comey, under huge turmoil, all this tumult surrounding what's going on with the Russians. They did not allow U.S. press in. They did not allow Americans to come in, but they let a reporter for what is basically one of the Kremlin outlets to come in there, photograph, and the pictures that we have come from basically a Kremlin outlet. And all of the handling of that then leads to this. And this is how it happens when you're snake bit and you can't seem to catch a break. The small or smaller mistakes that you made in the past, there is this spiral, there is this pebble turns into a rock that hits a boulder that starts rolling downhill.
So true. I mean, you know, this is sort of the next narrative that you would want to employ, right? If you are, you know, trying to take this president down or make him look bad, it's bad enough that the only pictures from this meeting were taken from Russian media. Now the story is that he was in there revealing, you know, intelligence that he should not have been revealing. And John Roberts is back with us as well. John, you know, one thing we know for sure is that this is not the narrative that the White House wants to be on, and this is not a page that has turned from a very ugly week last week. They're still spinning in this.
You know, take it as a piece. If this was the only thing, you'd say, well, the president had his reasons for discussing this information with Russia. We do share a common thread. He is trying to get them on board the fight against ISIS. But when you take it as part of a larger puzzle that keeps coming out and keeps reflecting back to Russia, it has the perception of being another, oh my goodness, what's going on here at the White House sort of thing. But the National Security Advisor coming out, and while he did not say that they did not discuss classified information, he said the story as reported is false. He also went on to say at no time were any intelligence sources or methods discussed. No military operations were disclosed that were not already known publicly. The president did share some information, and the fact that he did not expand on that at all, the fact that he did not take questions, clearly is an indication that the material that they were discussing was very sensitive, because the National Security Advisor, and he's come out and briefed us before, and he has a broad command of all of the issues that he's dealing with. It is quite eloquent in speaking about it. Clearly did not want to have to get into areas that he could not discuss in front of the cameras there with every network in the country live on him, which is why he just gave that brief statement and then walked away. But it still doesn't answer all of the questions here as to exactly what was the nature of the information, and maybe we could never know that because it's classified, and whether or not the material was actually classified. Was it top secret? Was it code worded? Or was it the sort of intelligence that we can share with people who are involved in a common fight against a common enemy? We don't know the answer to those questions, Martha, nor may we ever unless we get them from third-party sources. And then, because those sources were outside the room, you don't know how reliable the information was. But it's interesting that he did say a handful of people in the room, 4, that would have been the President, the Secretary of State, the National Security Advisor, and we believe the 4th was Dina Powell, who's the Deputy National Security Advisor for Strategy. And between McMaster and Dina Powell, they know how to handle classified information, and I assume that if they thought what the President was doing was a really, really bad idea, they probably would have spoken up.